I'm Rick. You're not. And I've been wondering about these caravans of migrants. Now, I heard a lot of it going on last few years, and after a while, you just start to tune it out. It's just yammer and other crap. And then, I don't know, about 6 months ago, I started to I actually woke up a little bit. We wake up all the time, you fuck asses. And got looking at just the sheer volume of people that were pouring over coming at the border. And when they sit there, and it just pisses me off when I hear people with the open border. Look, no offense, you fuck nut, you dumbasses, you stupid dumbasses. There's no open border. The border's not just like nobody's there and nobody's keeping an eye on shit. We just left the back doors open all the time. But that's not how that works. No, there's people at the border. There's thousands of people at the border. We pay an awful lot of money for a lot of people to sit on that border and do what we're paying them to do. The problem is a whole lot of different problems, starting with the system that's been in place since the 60s is no longer suitable for the current situation. It needs to be changed and updated and brought up to code. And guess what? The very people who've been crying and screaming and yelling and demanding that very thing take place now don't want to do it until after the election. Okay. Right. So let's just talk about that for just a moment. Just a moment. Let's go down this little here. When was the last time you ever heard the term caravan of migrants? The first time. The first time you ever heard it. Well, I have to acknowledge I hadn't heard it until in the last few years, about the most. I can't say I ever heard in the past, but that's not true. I did some Googling. Love Google. Research is pretty quick. So the earliest noted use of the term was a caravan of migrants that had started in the 80s when there were civil wars going off in El Salvador and Guatemala at the time, and a whole lot of people started to want to escape that and felt the best way was to come to America and apply for asylum. Now, if you think the asylum program in America is something that just was cooked up by Biden's Democrats, then you're dumb. You're really dumber than what you think you are. You're dumber than what you have a right to be, for damn straight. Because we've had asylum in this country since 200 years ago. I mean, it's been pretty long established, and it's not just America. Every country has its own version of an asylum plea. You can seek asylum in another country because you're fleeing from something that's going to kill you or be so detrimental to your life and your health that you're willing to give up everything and flee for your life. You're willing to risk your life to save your life. And that's something to take into account. So, this has been going on for a long time, and politicians on both sides of the aisle have used this term, and perhaps not as openly as often as most frequently has been the last 5 years, but they've used this theme or this meme since the 80s, and I imagine before that, because if you go back through history books and look at your history stuff, every era of America's existence has had some kind of migration influx, and some years much grander than others. The sheer number of people that came over from Europe during and after the Irish potato famine, for example, damn near double, and we're talking Europeans, damn near doubled the size of the country. And if you really think that, the good, solid white folk coming over from the mother countries and stuff was desired, you should go read your history just a little bit better, because a whole hell of a lot of people did not like the Irish folks that were invading our shores and diluting our blood and all the other wonderful terminologies and crap that the opposition spun up to make it sound like it's something that it was far worse than what it was. Now, that said, I will grant you that the sheer number of people that are coming over our borders is become extremely excessive. Excessive. It's too much. Our system's just not set up to handle this. And this is something that was a cold slap in the face to a lot of northern interests in America when the southern borders, certain southern border states decided to start unloading some of their burden into the other side's territory. This is when we start seeing these buses of migrants being trucked up, entire caravans put together by the GOP from various states, trucking them to democratically controlled states as a slap in the face and a warning, will you wake up and see what the problem we have? So it just goes to show you that a lot of the crying that we heard from the right and the GOP down south was based on some facts. The problem is that there's so many coming up. This led me to asking some questions, which I have a tendency to do sometimes when I think why and how and what and wherefore of a given situation. And I couldn't help but think back when, toward the end of Trump's, reign as president, they were starting to ramp up this threat on the southern border, this migrant threat. They were already trying to position certain people within the Republican Party were already trying to position this as to be a flag event effort thing for their party to campaign on. So this was already politically in the works for some time. And the very fact that we currently have a bipartisan group in the Senate that's put together a package that everybody, including the old school Republicans, are sitting there saying, look, we'd never get a better deal than this. Even if we controlled everything, if we were the House, the Senate, and the White House, we would still not get a better deal than this. And that's true because they wouldn't do a damn deal at all. Because why would they? It's not. They don't care. You really think these people care about these millions of people coming from overseas over here? No, at the end of the day, they don't. All they care is about how they can spend it to make themselves get themselves attention or something. So, part of our system's broke. That said, yeah, I have to wonder how many of these millions of people that came on these harrowing journeys, because most of these people come from South and South Central America, are traveling through some pretty horrific terrain and under at best dodgy conditions, on foot for thousands of miles to get to our border. So what motivates them to get going? There's always certain people that are looking for the next best thing or a better opportunity at life, and there's few things better than what America's offered as beacons to the entire world is what could be a better life. And so for folks that are living in extreme poverty conditions, that it would be a massive improvement over their life. Unfortunately for so many people in America living under extreme poverty conditions, it's just considered them being lazy fucks who ain't willing to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and somehow become millionaires overnight. Meanwhile, how much of these people who got the idea to come to America to seek asylum did so after listening to a non-stop tirade and never-ending retin of damn MAGA/GOP people who kept screaming about all these migrants coming north and how the borders were open. How the borders were open. America was turning nobody away. All you had to do is come get here. All you had to do is get to our shores. So, intentionally or not, it's hard to imagine that sort of rhetoric would get into the news, easily get into the local news in those countries and others, allowing average people to interpret what that means to be just what I said. The borders open, the U.S. is not saying no to anybody, we just got to get there. So everybody who might not have thought about going, things are bad here, but they're not that bad, or I don't want to leave grandma, or I don't want to leave our little hovel if it's still our hovel, and take the risk on this new adventure. Majority of people, though, on the other hand, a whole lot of people thought, I never considered it, but now may never have a better chance of going to America and finding a new life for themselves. So, we can dance on that conspiracy line for a minute and say, are there entities or powers that be in America who have political and or economic incentives to purposely feed that line of hope to destitute populations in third world countries with the intentions of invoking the very consequences that we now see, which allows certain parties to stand up and wave their arms frantically and scream and yell and blame the other side? Perhaps not. Perhaps that's going way out on a limb. That's a whole lot of effort that would take a lot of people, or a handful of pretty clever people, a moment to consider, let alone implement. But is it plausible? Hell yes, plausible. Excuse me. Well, yes, it's plausible. America does chicanery stuff all the damn time. We just try to coach it and other stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. Not to mention just the media. Then we add that to the media. Some certain American medias have high viewer rates in these third world countries. Fox is one of them. Isn't it interesting that Fox has such a high visibility in a lot of these third world countries? And if they were on there on daily, day in and day out, just ranting on and on about how these migrants are just flowing into the country and Biden won't stop them, and then they started feeding the line of bullshit. Well, they're all getting money and places to live and free shit and it's a little help, but it's not the same thing as being able to live off of it. Just pointing out. So, I don't know. I think that, there's a problem on the border. I think the problem on the border has been a problem for a better part of 100 fucking years. The last 50 for sure. Because every administration, regardless of which side of the aisle they bounced off of, have complained about the border and made weak attempts to address the border, or just outright ignored their border problems when it was their turn to try to fix something. So if you listen to the due diligence, or go do your due diligence, you can see it, you can find it. It's all out there. My concern, my worries is more than just this. They're utilizing this as a political tool and purposely in the short term actually damaging the Republican Party, which is why I tend to want to call them the MAGA Party, because I think the Republican Party, as most Republicans, conservative people understood it to be, is gone. It's gone, or it's been hijacked, and you might as well call it a MAGA Party, because that's what it is, and for good or ill, right? I don't know. I just don't know. But I fear that worse will come yet out of all this. Worse will come. Till next time, I'm Rick. Little Missy back here in the corner. You have you guys a great weekend. Let me see if I can get the right button. It just irritates me to no end.